experts to come in here for I don't know how much a day, $1,000 a day plus expenses at the 5-star hotel, in order to give you guys workshops on mindfulness. So I'll tell you how to do mindfulness for free in 5 minutes, or less than 5 minutes, 1 minute. I'll tell you like everything that they're going to tell you over the course of like 2-day seminars for thousands of dollars. Mindfulness means paying attention to what you're doing in the here and now. Period. Full stop. Okay? Now you can go out and buy books and you can take seminars and all like that, and all they're going to tell you is more or less the same thing. It only means paying attention to what's happening here and now. And not multitasking, not thinking about 7,000 different things, and not thinking about the future all the time. Not thinking about karma pala, the results of my actions in the future. So we'll come back to that theme later. Greedy, violent, impure, and at the mercy of the vicissitudes of life. So these are verses from the Bhagavad Gita that like talk about this kind of busy lifestyle and the kind of negativities of it. All right. Did I go on too long?
Yes, we were so busy. So I thought we could just do a quick review because as Marut was talking, I wrote down, anytime I heard him say why we're so busy. So we were just on the section of the reading, section 2, why we're so busy, right? So did anyone else, as you were listening, did you think of some reasons why you're so busy that you didn't hear him say? No, but I mean, it's good to make it personal and really realize why you're personally so busy so you can work with your own compulsion to act, right? Your own addictions. And so if anybody sort of felt that why they're so busy wasn't addressed, then please speak up so we can get we can crowdsource busyness, get the cloud. Yes?
One of the things that I was thinking about is that a lot of times you're talking about how we can't just abandon our responsibilities.
Yes.
Is that, a lot of us, a job or something we choose, we don't get like we'll pay you this much if you work 40 hours and then you can call it quits. You kind of either want the job or you don't. So I found that hard to reconcile, with the idea that you don't have to be busy, but you've got to pay your bills. Because, I'm not choosing to go to 60, I'm just choosing to get a job. But no one's presented me with a job that says, we'll let you stop at 40 for less money so that you can do something else.
Right.
I found that hard.
Right.
What career are you in?
I'm a teacher.
Teacher.
Yeah.
Teacher? What kind of teacher?
I teach English.
Well, that's a cushy job.
Apparently not.
I was a teacher my whole life. You get 3 months off a year. You get holidays. I mean, by the time you add up all the time off, you get like 4 months a year off, pretty much. You work an 8-month year, isn't it?
Not in Singapore.
Not in Singapore.
I think I'm doing a bit more than that.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. I mean, one of the things that I was thinking about was when Marut was talking about people being able to contact you all the time, how easy it is or how impossible it is to create boundaries with your employers to say that, I won't answer the phone between 9 p.m. and 8 a.m. Is that realistic? Is the word I was looking for. Is it realistic? And if so, is there any way that we can just create a little bit more sanity in our lives by creating boundaries around, even if it's not realistic with work, maybe it is with family and friends, like I turn my phone off and then I'm just not available. Or if we go on a holiday, I turn my email off and I'm not available, and I might maybe have an emergency email or something for emergencies, but everything else is off. So part of getting unbusy is just being realistic about creating some boundaries around when you are and are not contactable. Yeah. So here's some of the things that I wrote down from Marut. So why we're so busy. We need more money because we have so much more things that we want to buy, right? So that's the greed that he was talking about before maybe. We have busyness as a status symbol. Did you relate to that? Exhaustion as a status symbol. Yeah. And Brené Brown talks about this, and she also talks about it in relation to the fact that that goes hand in hand with the guilt we feel for not being busy. So because we have exhaustion as a status symbol, on the opposite side, we actually therefore feel guilty for resting. She says you know, she feels guilty about being creative, or she recognised this is a type A personality where you would feel guilty for being creative. So when your friend's going to the pottery class, she said, I say to her, yeah, you go do your ART, I've got a JOB. You know? Because art's stupid and not productive, and I've got a JOB and I'm important, you know. So you have this sort of status symbol, which is part of your ego building, right? Because resting, peaceful, artistic, creative, it's not productive. If exhaustion is your status symbol, then the opposite you won't find any joy in, right? So trying to bring those together again. Busyness keeps us from thinking about what we are doing. Remember that part of it where you're so busy that you don't have to think about what it is that you're doing that's keeping you so busy. And actually, if you are so busy, you might be actually afraid to stop being so busy, because then you would have to identify with what it is that you really want to do. We're going to go into this in a minute. But if you're keeping yourself so busy because you're afraid of being quiet, and you're afraid with being by yourself, and you're afraid with just sitting with your own mind and your own, you know, energy, it might be because you're afraid of what it is that you really want to do. Like, we're sometimes really good at succeeding in things that we don't really want to do, because we're afraid of failing at what we really want to do. Right? Do you relate to that? I've been fantastic in my life of helping other people achieve their passions and goals and projects, but when it comes to my own, I'm afraid of FOF. You know, they call it FOF because they're too busy to say fear of failure. They just call it FOF now, right? But we keep busy because we're afraid of failing at doing what it is that we really want to do. The other side of FOF is FOMO. You know FOMO? Yeah. You're too busy to say fear of missing out. But FOMO keeps us busy too, because we're afraid of missing out on experiences. We're afraid of missing out on pleasurable experiences. This is a big thing now in literature about internet use, that a lot of us have that compulsion to act that Marut was talking about, because you go online and you see the edited life of people that is so fabulous, right? People living these fabulous lives, and it brings up in us a fear of missing out. I want to have those experiences. I want to go there. I want to have dinner with my friends and take a picture of it, you know. Some primal passion in ourselves comes up. You're afraid of missing out on pleasurable experiences. So now we get much deeper into why we're so busy, because we're running on our two primal experiences, our primal fears of wanting more pleasurable experiences and wanting less painful experiences. We want more pleasurable experiences, we're afraid of missing out on them, and so we have the compulsion to act to get more pleasurable experiences. And it's an addiction. You know, that's where the problem is. It's an addiction. It's a compulsion where, you know, you go online, you compare yourself to others, you feel as though I will be happy if I go to Thailand like Jackie just went to. Angkor Wat. I haven't been to Angkor Wat. Oh my God, Jackie went to Angkor Wat. I'm missing out on Angkor Wat, you know. And then what do you do from that compulsion to go to Angkor Wat, because you have a fear of missing out on that? And what do you think? If I go to Angkor Wat, then people will like me, then I'll be happy, then I'll feel good about myself, I'll achieved another experience, you know. So we have a fear of missing out. And then the other side is a fear of failure. We have a fear of doing things that we really want to do, because just say I do it, it doesn't work out. I have a fear of having the painful experiences. So in a way, it's a compulsion to not act, actually. That's the inertia. And you can be very busy being inert. You can be very busy not doing the one thing that you really want to do. Okay, we're going to talk about connecting to our passion, because we can be busy our whole lives avoiding doing that one thing that we've always wanted to do in life. Right? Very busy doing nothing. Very busy being inert because of fear of failure. And you know, J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter, she said, the only failure is not trying. The only failure that you could possibly experience is not trying that thing that you really want to do. Then you failed already before you even started, right? So fear of failure and fear of missing out, these are two ways that keep us busy, these two compulsions that really keep us busy. Desire for more pleasurable experiences. And why do you want those? That's really the question, because how am I going to feel? I'm going to feel content. I'm going to feel liked. I'm going to feel successful. All of that drives you. Actually, what you want is to feel content, to feel free, to feel peace. If I just go to Thailand, then I'll feel peace. If I just get to Angkor Wat, then I'll be peaceful. Then I'll feel peace. Right? So that's deeper compulsion of why we act. We act because we're addicted, to the phones. We act because we hope to have a better life in the future, right? So this is why we're so busy, number 2. So the next section is section 3, doing what needs to be done. Here we sort of go back to the point that Marut wanted to clarify, make sure that we all leave knowing. Because when we hear get unbusy, then we have the tendency to go to the other extreme and say, well, if busyness is bad, then inaction is good, right? If I just don't do anything, then I'll be happy. So the Bhagavad Gita clears that up for us. Krishna says, do what is necessary to do, for action is superior to inaction. Inaction would not even keep your own body sustained. So Krishna's just clarifying here that if you think that you've only got a choice between 2 bad choices, being busy or not doing anything at all, be busy. But he's going to get a little bit more subtle on what we should be doing. But I thought that was good to just recognise that action is superior to inaction. When I went online to look at quotes on busyness, just to see what people were saying about it, there were definitely quotes on getting unbusy. But there were also quite a few quotes on people saying if you're sitting at home alone, depressed, thinking about yourself all the time, get busy. Go out and do something, And have you found that? Like when you just change the scene, you go out and help someone, you go out and see a friend, you go out and listen to a friend's problem, or go and help someone, be of service. All of that obsession about the self can disappear. So there is an argument for getting busy. What we're really doing here is getting a bit more subtle about what action would mean. So I wrote down a few ways to get into the middle way between between being busy and doing nothing. So what we're really trying to do is understand how to act wisely, how to act peacefully, how to act without compulsion, mindful action, as Marut said, and mindful action rather than habitual reaction. I think this is really important. Awakened action rather than habitual reaction. So one of the reasons why we're so busy, like I was saying with the FOMO and FOF before, is that that's a habitual response to life. We're so busy because we run on habitual reaction. Or you could say we overreact. I think Lama Marut says, undo overdoing it. Undo overdoing it. Because we have habitual reaction. We're just habitually going in a cycle. Right? So we're trying to cut through that with mindful action. There's a difference between overacting or overreacting and inaction. There's a difference between perfectionism and personal growth. There's a difference between perfectionism in your action and personal growth. There's a difference between accomplishment and ambition. There's a difference between competency and competition. So the difference in those two things, between perfectionism and personal growth, accomplishment and ambition, competency and competition, is that one of those is an emphasis on what I have to do to get ahead, to be successful, what I have to do. That's perfectionism, ambition and competition. That's what I have to do. And what there is to be done is personal growth, accomplishment and competency. So there's a difference here between what I have to do, what I think I have to do for myself to get ahead, that's ego-driven, that's all about the self, and the other side of it, which is what is there to be done, doing what needs to be done. So I'm going to skip over the second verse because that's really what the second verse is about, but Marut said he was going to talk about it at the very end. So really what we're going to end with here is what there is to be done, which you could say, what is your Dharma? What is your Dharma helps us clarify our duty and helps us prioritize what there is to be done so that when we wake up in the morning, we know what there is to be done every day. We know what there is to be done every hour, every minute. We know our priorities of what there is to be done in our life scheme, you know. So it's a really wonderful verse here that we're going to look at to really work out what your Dharma is. Your Dharma will help you understand the container within which you live your life, what your priorities are, what your duties are, and therefore you'll know how to act and where to put your precious energy. When we wake up in the morning, we only have a certain amount of thoughts we can think each day. We only have a certain amount of breaths we can take each day. We only have a certain amount of energy that we can put into projects every day. Where is that going for you? Where is your limited energy going? Where are your limited amount of thoughts? Where are they? How many pure thoughts about now are you thinking about, right? So if we understand our priorities, then we have an overarching understanding of where that precious energy should be going. What is your Dharma? What is there to be done? It is better to do one's own duty imperfectly than to do the duty of another well. It is better even to die doing one's own duty. The duty of another is perilous. So we're going to stall out on this just for the last 10 minutes. This is an amazing verse from the Bhagavad Gita that large amounts of ink have been spilt over the years. We're really just going to use it as a launching point to explore what our own Dharma is. Your Dharma, you can divide it into 3 parts. Svadharma, Kula Dharma, and Sanatana Dharma. Okay? Svadharma first. What is your personal Dharma? You can think about what proclivities you were born with, what interests you were born with, your skills and talents, sometimes they say your vasanas, the energy that you were propelled into the world with. You might have certain skills or talents, interests, right? Some kind of scent maybe has been with you since you were born of interest or passion. Has there been a passion that's been following you around all this time? When I was talking about the very thing that you've always wanted to do that you're avoiding doing your whole life, have you noticed what that is? If you have that, you know, some kind of secret passion that you wouldn't dare tell anybody because it's just so precious. You wouldn't dare tell anybody, oh, I really want to ... right? I really wanted to join the circus or whatever. No matter what it is, there's some scent that's been following you around, a great passion, and it's so precious that you can't even take the first step to doing it because you're afraid of failing at it. You know, it's that precious for you. If your life feels pointless or meaningless or lost, you might have lost your Svadharma a little bit. You might have disconnected from your own passions. They might have been like taken out of you when you were young, like your parents or whatever have said that's a silly thing, you shouldn't do it, or your teachers have said you're not good at it, you shouldn't do it, you know. And it's still a passion for you, but you think you're not good at it and you've gone further and further away from your Svadharma. Are you relating to this in some way? Getting into trying to find what your passions are, your proclivities. Who inspires you? This is a nice way to work out your Svadharma. An actor, a singer, an artist, a banker, you know, and they might actually be someone that you're jealous of, because we're only jealous of people that we see good qualities in. That's why we're jealous of them. So look at who you're jealous of, look at who you're inspired by. That might be because that's what you want to do, right? Your Svadharma. What feels meaningful? What are you good at? What do you think serves the world? Okay, so ways to work out your priorities is your spa dharma, your personal dharma. Your practice helps you connect with that intuition. Getting quiet in meditation, some kind of practice helps us naturally find that inspiration and creativity within us. So anytime you practice, that helps open up the voice to tell you what your real passions are, okay? So the next one is Kula Dharma. So we'll sort of balance these out to work out your priorities and what it is that you need to do. Kula Dharma is more about your community Dharma or your family Dharma. So you can think about what kind of family were you born into? And you don't have to think that's random. Like, why were you put with those people? It might have been beautiful, it might have been terrible, or probably both. But why were you put together? What did you need to work out with each other? That's your Kula Dharma. Right? Why do you have to live with these people for that long? You know, there must be a reason, right? Working stuff out with your Kula, with your family. In ancient times, in India, you know, when they talk about this verse, sometimes they talk about the fact that some people were born into a community of weavers, and so you're a weaver. That's your Kula Dharma, because you were born into a family or a town of weavers, so do your duty. You were born into a family of weavers, stop complaining and be a weaver. It's so different for us now. We almost have the anxiety of choice because we're told we can do anything. And in a way that gives people a lot of anxiety because you think, there's too much choice, I can't choose what it is that I want to do. So, but you can think about what kind of family you were born into, you know. Like I was born in a family, this is such an interesting experience for me because I was born in a family of entertainers. So my grandfather was like a vaudeville star, my mother was a showgirl, and my older sister was a showgirl, my younger sister's a dancer, my dad's a musician, you know. So I was born into this family of actors and singers and dancers. And so I had like the saddest rebellion in history because, you know, I was trained in that because that's what I'm supposed to do. That's my Kula Dharma, you know. I'm supposed to be an entertainer, I'm supposed to be a dancer, an actor, singer, whatever. So I'm trained in that. So my like sad rebellion was going to university. I was like, screw you guys, I'm going to go get an education. Which they were very disappointed about. Like I had the, you know, the parents that most kids dream of where they're like, you go to dance class, young lady, don't you dare go to university. You know? But, you know, I was telling this story a while ago and realised that I was telling it on a stage in front of an audience and, you know, and so I wondered, like, from that, can you escape your karma? You know, can you escape your Kula Dharma? Because no matter how, I mean, I tried to do the exact opposite and then I ended up doing what my Kula did, you know, and what my family did. Some sort of like thing with an audience and, you know, it's different, but still, it really made me think. I wonder, no matter how far away you go, sometimes that karma is just there and it's inescapable and there's nothing you can do to control it.
She'll be dancing later on.
Yeah. Come see me down at the piano bar later. So what were you born to do? And you were born to be a daughter or a son, you know. So what are your responsibilities toward your family? Because you were born to be a daughter or a son or a mother or a father or a sister, brother. That's your Kula Dharma. What responsibilities do we have to each other in our family and then also in our community, you know. Kula Dharma in terms of your community. Where were you born? Is it just random that you were born in the place you were born? And, you know, it can all be meaningful. It can all help us find our purpose in life, our Dharma, and know what it is that we need to do. And then Sanatana Dharma. This is beyond personal Dharma, although it connects to your personal practice. But Sanatana Dharma is really your universal Dharma. Getting beyond the small self, recognizing who you truly are. And you could argue this is the most important Dharma in life. This is what is there to be done for us, ultimately. Finding out who we really are, connecting to our true nature, finding out that we, in some way, we are the universe, you know. That's why we all come to these kinds of things, because some part of our Sanatana Dharma is calling us home. We come to these classes so that we can go home, which is to integrate with our true nature, who we really are, beyond all of the busyness of the small self, expanding out to recognize that we are the universe. We all are the universe, you know, and that's your Sanatana Dharma. Your ability to recognize who you truly are, something that's beginningless and endless, eternal and everlasting, unlike our jobs, you know, and our money and all of those other things that keep us busy, but finding something eternal and everlasting and richer than any amount of money we can make. It's endlessly rich. It's the jewels of the universe, you know, Sanatana Dharma. And so the Svadharma, Kula Dharma, Sanatana Dharma form a nice balance. And in the Indian system, they also talk about this Purusharta, where you work out how to prioritize your pursuit of enjoyment to the point where it doesn't interfere with your work, your pursuit of work, money, you know. So you can enjoy yourself up to the point where it doesn't, you're not so hungover that you can't go to work, right? Right? So you see that? Your enjoyment, pursue enjoyment until it affects your work. And pursue your work only to the point where it doesn't interfere with your Sanatana Dharma, with your true reason for being here. What we were put on here to do, what we were put on here to recognize. So that's a nice sort of general equation of where to put our energies, how to prioritize these different facets of life, because they must be in balance, you know. So Kula Dharma, Svadharma, Kula Dharma, Sanatana Dharma, working out how to bring those three together. So we're pretty much done here, but just to finish, I thought just to go back to the meditation that we did at the start. That kind of meditation is a really wonderful way to just check back into the present. Like if we are feeling busy, if we are feeling like everything's getting dispersed, that kind of mindfulness meditation is so easy, and just as a way to check back into what's actually happening. Because we get so busy worrying about what just happened and what's going to happen. That's why we feel busy, right? Overwhelmed. So these kinds of meditations where we just pause, it's so important these days to have that ability to take the sacred pause as much as we can to check back into the present, to what's actually happening. Busyness is what we think should be happening or just happened. But the pause, the sacred pause, is what's actually happening. You know, coming back home. So when you were doing that meditation, and if you keep doing that meditation, you can see, like, did you think that it was boring? You know, because that's another reason why we're so busy. Because we are terrified of being bored. Terrified of being bored these days. And you can see what your tendencies are. Was your tendency in the meditation to think, oh, okay, we're doing a mindfulness meditation, I don't need to do that, I need to make a list of like everything I need to do when I get home. And you can see what your tendency is to throw forward and to make a list of what has to be done. Or maybe you were getting busy correcting yourself. Oh my God, my left eyeball, it's just terrible. It's the worst left eyeball in the room. You idiot. You shouldn't even be here, your left eyeball's so terrible. And you have the compulsion to act, to continually fix yourself and get angry at yourself and aggression towards yourself. So this kind of meditation is just a wonderful way to just check in and say, oh, okay, that's my tendency. You can see where your launching point for busyness is, where you jump off when you do that kind of meditation, to what you do to avoid being present for what's actually happening.
So just to end things, back to the next to the last verse in the handout for this class. Arjuna, while those who are ignorant perform actions out of attachment, the wise one, unattached, acts in order to maintain the world. This is the secret that we'll return to in the next 3 classes. It's not about not acting. It's about acting without attachment, acting freely. And how to do that. So what is it that we're attached to and in our actions? And we talked about a couple of them tonight, and maybe we'll hit some more in the next 3 sessions. We're attached to keeping busy for its own sake. We're attached to busyness as if it were important in and of itself. And that's one way to think about attachment to action. Thinking that busyness has some intrinsic value. Okay? Then we're attached, of course, to the ego enhancement of keeping busy all the time, of feeling important because we're so busy. And then the one that we'll really explore in some of the next sessions, we're attached to what's called the fruits of action. We're attached to results that we hope to get out of being busy all the time, and keeping active all the time, and working hard all the time. And the text that we've quoted from a number of times tonight, and that we'll continue to quote from, Bhagavad Gita, this is the key. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is a method for keeping active happily. It's called karma yoga. Karma means action in this context. Yoga always means discipline. I mean, yoga can mean a lot of different things, but if you have to pick one English word to cover the whole connotation of yoga, it would be discipline. So the discipline of action. So what is this about? It's a discipline of staying in the present as you are acting. Okay? Without thinking about the future. Without thinking about what am I going to get out of it? What's the result going to be? See? You could call it action for its own sake. So the verse that Cindy spent a lot of time on is, do what it is that you need to do in life, what you're called to do, what what conditions, circumstances have brought you to do. But do it freely. Do it without attachment to the results. Do it for its own sake, you could say. And this is hard to do. That's why it's called the yoga. It's called the discipline, because it's very hard to stay in the present. It's very hard to stay in the present. It's much easier to go into flights of fancy about what could happen in the future, or remembering stuff that already has happened and is no more. If you look at your own mind, it's just sort of disappointing how little time we spend actually in the present. And that's kind of the secret. That's the secret of how to stay active without feeling stress. To stay active without feeling that sense of busyness and anxiety and so forth. Because all that comes from futuristic thinking. It comes from what I feel I need to do, I must do. You see? What I must do in order to get something in the future, in order to attain something in the future, in order to feel better about myself in the future and stuff like that, instead of staying focused in the present. So the next 3 classes, for those of you who can make it, tomorrow we'll do 2 classes, 3 to 5 and 7 to 9, on prioritizing action. And all of this is kind of in relation to taking control now, taking control over your life. So one way to feel less busy is to figure out what's important to do and what's not. You see? What's more important than other things to do, and to prioritize what is actually important. Then tomorrow evening we'll talk about mindful action. Mindful action. Staying present mindfully as we act, as we do our daily, chores, as we do what we need to do. And also mindful inaction. Mindful inaction. Mindful means like you're in charge, It's the opposite of mindless, mindful. And so mindfully deciding not to be active. Okay? This is also known as taking days off. Taking holidays. So even if you have a job that requires you to do 60 hours a week, that still leaves a bunch of other hours. Okay? And so to decide, in the time that I do have, and some of us have more time and some of us have less time, but we all have some time to just say, I'm not going to do anything now. I'm going to rest, I'm going to relax, I'm going to go look at the ocean, and mindfully decide not to act, okay? Taking control. Then Sunday we'll end up with a class on action done with wisdom. And you know, wisdom really means understanding that things aren't really how they seem. You see? I mean, we're pretty good at knowing how things seem, but we're not so good at knowing how they really are. So that'll be the grand conclusion. Each one of these classes has a little exercise that goes with it. The exercise for this class follows the reading. Exercise 1, and it's to spend a little bit of time, you know, thinking about busyness in your own life, what motivates it and so forth, and then secondly, what it is that you need to do, your duties, you see. So the second part of it really is about like whether or not you're keeping so busy that you don't do what you really need to do. Tomorrow we'll do a little bit on laziness. And laziness comes in two forms. There's the obvious laziness, which is just I don't feel like doing something, right? I don't feel like doing something. But then there's another kind of laziness. The laziness of busyness. Of staying so busy that you don't do what the one thing or the couple of things that you really need to do because you're so busy doing something else. And I don't know about you, we'll talk more about it tomorrow, but I don't know about you, but this has happened to me repeatedly in my life. There's one thing I really need to do, I get all kinds of other things done. Get really, really active around all kinds of other things, and there's one thing that I need to do that I don't do. And that's a form of laziness. That's a form of laziness. So anyway, that's the exercise for tonight, and that's the trajectory for the rest of the weekend. I went on long, but we still have some time to have a little bit of discussion if you want. So if there are questions or comments.